Say hey, Yellow Jacket football fans. Welcome to the beginning of the regular season. We are here with Calhoun High School Yellow Jacket football coach Clay Stephenson. And this podcast in the press box is being brought to you by the Calhoun Touchdown Club and Coach Clay. Mother Nature has cooperated a little bit this week with you.
It has a little bit.
A little bit.
It's been a crazy preseason. I feel like every week has either been heat or storms last week. And then the heat came back this week. So we've had to we can't get into a routine. You know, we're creatures of habit, and we can't do it yet with the heat. And then looking forward to next week, it's going to be hotter than this week. So we had to move a couple practices around. Yesterday we were lucky enough to get out there. We had to alter practice. The CHSA puts guidelines out for different wet bulb temperatures and different things you can do in it. So we had to limit it to 2 hours to go to shells yesterday. And it's normally a full padded practice on Tuesday, but we still got some work done, and then went out this morning like normal. And so we've had 3 good days. One altered practice, and then we had two morning practices.
I'm not asking you to blow the whistle on anybody, but the GHSA guidelines are strict. I mean, does everybody follow this? Because
I have no idea. We're not around on other people's practices.
Exactly.
But we've got a trainer and Dr. Holly. They both go check the wet bulb. Right about 3:30, right before practice, and give us the guidelines and tell us what to do. Like I said, we've had Monday. Obviously, was a scorching hot day,
yes.
And so we knew we weren't going to be able to get out in the afternoon there. So we went Monday morning, and yesterday, like I said, it was a cooler temperature, but the humidity was higher. So we ended up being to, like I said, alter it a little bit. And obviously, the morning practices, it was a little chilly this morning. You could about wear sleeves.
66.
Yes, compared to Monday when it was 100. So it's just been all over the place. And but the kids, for the most part, respond pretty well. And the parents, the tough part, especially for the young guys, it's not a set schedule yet. So I'm having to send them updates basically daily for them to find out when they need to drop kids off and pick them up. So hopefully after next week, the heat will get down and we can get into a routine.
Yeah, I stepped out the door this morning, and Mother Nature's humidity did not smack me in the face. It was unbelievably nice.
Yes, it was nice.
I had a tennis lesson last night, and a young lady said, "Oh, when we wake up tomorrow morning, Coach, it's going to be 63 degrees outside." And she was close.
That's right. It was a great morning. It felt like fall this morning.
Yeah, it did. It really did. Everybody's going through this as far as getting a routine, and it's tough. Fortunately, you have a lot of kids coming back that's been in this program that are now seniors. They've been in this program for 6 years when you count some of them as 6th graders and then as 7th graders. They're used to this fluctuation, and particularly with the wet bulb treatment, with the humidity, and obviously safety. Safety comes first. I was listening to a coach talk the other day. He said the worst thing that this head coach sees is when they're doing practices is when 22 people are banging heads, and every time somebody's tackled to the ground, he holds his breath and waits to see that everybody gets up. And that's kind of you, isn't it?
Yes, that is. As a position coach, you don't think about it quite as much.
That's what this guy said.
But as a head coach, it is every it's football obviously is a contact sport, and there are going to be injuries and this and that. But especially we get in practices, you just want them to play hard, and it takes a little while to learn how to practice the way we want to practice, because we don't go 100% full tackling hardly ever, and so it takes a little bit of time to understand to go hard and get to your spot, and then and just for the scout teams is what I'm saying. It's tough. It's tough for them to get used to practicing the way we want them to, but we're getting better at that. This morning was a really good one. Wednesday's a big team day, and so we're getting kind of close to where we want to be. But it takes a few weeks of practicing the way we do to kind of learn how to practice.
Yeah, I was talking to a sophomore daddy. This has been years ago. You were on staff. I think like your first or second year, well, your third or fourth year here, as I remember back. And he was kind of complaining to me, and he said, "Well, how does a sophomore get into the starting lineup?" I said, "He'll get used to the practice routine. We don't Calhoun doesn't tackle and bring people down to the ground. It's not smash mouth football on every practice play. I said, when you're at Calhoun, you're not playing a 10-game schedule. You're playing a hopefully 15-game schedule. So it takes a lot of maintenance of the players.
Yes, it does, and we practice both sides of the ball as well. So we don't have to do too much extra conditioning because they're getting a lot of reps on both sides of the ball. But going back to scout teams, and that's kind of where you earn your stripes, and that's where you get ready to play. We've got some of our big time starters now. Think back when they were freshmen, and they're hard to stop on the scout team, and they worked their way into a role because we couldn't block them on scout team, or we couldn't guard them or whatever. So scout teams makes a huge difference in the way practice goes, and it's also the best reps of those guys are going to get. A lot of times it's our ninth and JV guys going against them, and this is good quality reps against good competition. So everybody, I stress this all the time to the kids, everybody needs to know their role. It doesn't matter if you're a starter or you're a second team scout teamer. You've got a job to do every day at practice, and it gets you better. It also gets everybody else better. So it's like I said a while ago, it's a work in progress. But I feel like our scout teams and just overall practices are getting better each day.
You probably learned this when you were in 7th grade playing football for the first time, or 6th grade, whenever it was, practicing. You're one play away from being a starter.
Absolutely, and that's something that you don't really understand until you go through last year. And I think that's where this year's team, we saw all the injuries we had last year, all the adversity we had. So hopefully those backups understand their role and treat every practice like they're the starter, because like you said, you never know.
Yeah, you just never know. And football is, yes, it's a contact sport, but it's mostly a collision sport, and it's tough. All righty, we're getting ready to take on Blessed Trinity. We've got a bunch of Calhoun veterans back. We got a lot of people that maybe starting assignments were probably in some of the players' minds predetermined before practice started. Of course, everything's up in the air, as you coaches like to keep everybody on their left foot a little bit. But we're taking on Blessed Trinity at Blessed Trinity. This is the 6th game in a series that started back in 2015 in the Elite Eight, where we lost a heartbreaker at Blessed Trinity, 12-7. We played them again in 20. We lost that game, 35-21. Then we had them twice in 21. We beat them here at home, 32-27. Then the big game, the semifinals at our place, and we beat them 24-7. Last year we played them, lost a tough one, 36-25, and that was at Phil Reeve Stadium. Also, we're going up there this time to take them on their home field in the 6th game of the series. This has turned into quite a test for both teams.
Yeah, it is.
It's been a good matchup.
Yeah, it has. Going back to the 15 one, that was a great football game.
Yes, it was.
And then they got in our region. We never thought we'd be in their region. Got in their region the last cycle, so we got to know a lot about them. They're on their 3rd head coach since then. They got a new coach this year from Winder.
Ed Dudley.
Yeah, he's been around for forever. He retired, I think, one time and came back. So he's a great football coach. He's been around for a long time. He's been a bunch of different stops. He kept a few of his coaches on staff. I think he kept his defensive coordinator, his offensive line coach are probably the main ones. But he brought in some guys as well. So a little bit unknown as far as X and O stuff they're going to do.
Okay.
But we know the type of program they have. We know the type of kids they have because we've played them several times in the last few years. So another hard nose. They've got great support from their school. So it's kind of the same thing like here. You can roll different coaches through, and the kids know what to expect, and you know what to expect from the kids. So I know he's doing a great job, and it's his debut, so I know it's circled on theirs for a while, and they beat us last year, so it's one of those that you want to get back out there and see what you can do this year. So very, very fired up, excited. Obviously, it's the first game, but getting to play Blessed Trinity, a program like that, and on the road, it adds a little bit of excitement to it. So looking forward to it.
we look at the schedule. Blessed Trinity is a 6A team. The Titans. Our next game is at Carver at Grady Stadium. Their preseason rank is number 3 in three. I believe they're 3A, aren't they?
I think so.
Yeah, and then we get Creekview at home. That was one of the best sub 500 teams we've seen when we played them up there at their place. So we get them at home. There's 6A school. Then we don't get any break because then we take on Cedartown on September 8th. They're number 7 in preseason. They're 4A. And then we get our homecoming game with our intra-county rival, Sonoraville, another 4A school. So you're going to start off with a bang, and it doesn't get any easier. Thank goodness after Sonoraville we get a week off to recoup and get into the region play.
Yeah, that seems like a million years away right now.
Yeah, it does.
We're dead set all in on Blessed Trinity. They've got a lot of guys back. You know, they were pretty young last year. They lost some key guys, but defensively most of their guys are back. They're doing a little bit different stuff offensively. So, like I said, a little bit unknown, but we know the type of kids they have and the quality of team they're going to put out there.
Yeah, last 2 or 3 years, they had the stud running back until he transferred to Buford. So we knew what they were going to do. They were going to throw it to him. They're going to run with him. They've always got a big quarterback, good size kid. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do offensively. There's a reason he probably kept his defensive coordinator with all that defense coming back.
Yeah. Their defense coordinator actually is from Calhoun, Chuck Goddard. He graduated here with, I think he was in Trey Pearson's class.
Oh, okay.
In the 80s, I'm not sure what. So I think his mom still lives here in town. So he kept there, and they did a really good job against us last year. They changed some things up from the year before, and it looks like they're doing some of the similar stuff they were doing last year. They got, like I said, a ton of kids back in the secondary. They're very athletic, and most of those guys started last year as sophomores, and now they're juniors, and obviously bigger, faster, and stronger. So and they got some size up front on both sides. They've got a kid I feel like has been a 6-year starter for them. He's a senior now, but he started all 4 years. We played him for a long time, and he plays both sides of the ball. He's a big tackle for him, and turns around and plays defense as well. So got a work cut out for us. They've got a big, tall quarterback that can make every throw on the field. It's a little bit different, last year or every time we've played them, they've been an eye football team and a power team, and they're still doing. I think they'll still probably run a little power, but they're going to be spread and shotgun most of the time. So it's going to be a lot different Blessed Trinity offense than you're used to seeing. But I still think that they're going to, it's going to be a good test for our defense because they still got those big offensive linemen and got a couple of good running backs, good receivers, and like I said, that quarterback is a first-year starter, but he can make every throw on the field. Looks like. Defensively,
3-man, 4-man front.
They're 3-man front, 3-4, just like they played us last year. They do a lot of stuff. It's tough to tell. If game one you don't have all of your arsenal in play yet on both sides. We don't either. But they, compared to years prior, last year they did a little bit more stuff up front. Very, very aggressive defensive line. Offensive line will have a good test early.
Yeah, it will be a good test. I remember I was looking at their roster on the computer. I remember them having a defensive tackle or nose tackle that was like 300 pounds.
Yeah,
he's still on the roster.
Yeah, that's Paul. Yeah, I feel like he's an 8th-year senior, something like that. He got some COVID years and some redshirt years, but he's been starting since he's a freshman, from what I remember, and he plays both sides. I think he's probably the anchor on both sides of the ball for them.
Yeah, it will be an interesting match, and it's always a good atmosphere. The weather is going to get up to around 90 degrees for a high on Friday, so it's going to be a hot night.
It is, and it's that's, I don't know, concerning, but it is definitely going to be an issue in that you don't get to practice in the heat, which is tough sometimes because if you try to practice in the afternoon, like going back to our first topic, you get out there and sometimes you don't get to have your full practice, or you have to go in just a helmet, depending on the tier of the wet bulb, and then you have to play in it. normally at 7:30 or 8, it's going down a little bit.
Exactly.
So, but during the day it will be hot. So we've been stressing hydrating as much as I can for this whole year. How teenagers are sometimes they think they can show up and drink a couple of waters before the game and be fine. So we tried to hammer down this whole week to stay off their feet as much as they can outside of football and drink as much liquids as they can. So, but it definitely will be hot, and it's always an issue those first couple of games. Right. When you play in August, the hottest month of the year, cramping is normally an issue. Doesn't matter who's playing. So, hopefully, we'll be able to roll some guys in. Going back to our depth issues, hopefully, we can roll some guys in, especially early in the game, so that we can make sure we're fresh, or as fresh as we can be, going to the fourth quarter.
Exactly. I wasn't raised here, moved here 31 years ago, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I go to my first football game, and I'm thinking, geez Louise, how do people survive in this? And you've been raised in this, and so if it's hot, it's time for football season to start.
That's right. It didn't. I don't feel like it got too hot until the first week of acclimation period or the second week. So. And then this week it's been up and down a little bit, and it looks to be upticking again at the end of the week. Yes. And then next week it's in the high 90s or 100s a couple of days. So we'll have our work cut out for us again next week to figure out a practice schedule. But it's the hand you're dealt. So you gotta make do with it. And luckily we've got a great coaching staff. Great players and great parents that they can handle changing the practice the day before. I know a lot of guys wouldn't be able to do that, but we send out a remind and they get here whenever we need them to. So to the parents out there, just try to tell them be patient with us. We're doing the best we can, and we want to schedule more than they do, but we're just not able to do it yet.
I was at practice yesterday, and there was a break, and several of the coaches got together, and I'm listening to them talk about what might happen. This may happen. They may do this. They might do that. And that's typical of a first game.
Yeah, first game is such unknown. And that's why, you really, these first few games, you have to focus on yourself. You've got to. You can't, we call it kind of chasing ghosts in the football world. You can't go on too many what ifs. And you got to have a plan for things, but the best thing you can do is just prepare and do the things that you can do. I think we talked about it last time. For the first 2 or 3 games, the goal was to be in better shape, have better fundamentals, which is blocking, tackling, protecting the football, and be better on special teams. So those 3 things I feel like you kind of can control, and if we can have the edge on those three areas, I feel like we'll be in the football game against anybody in the fourth quarter.
There you go, and that is the goal. Well, let's talk about your Yellow Jackets. We've got a lot of guys back that played a lot last year, so you've got some good senior leadership on this team. You've got guys that are used to being in the program and doing what they need to get done. Relying on them pretty heavily, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. It's always a neat as a coach to get to see those seniors that have been in your program for a long time step up into the leadership roles that they've kind of been on the back seat before, because it's always you want your seniors to lead your team, and this group right here is very close on and off the field, and I want to say we mentioned this last podcast, but that's what it takes to separate good teams and great teams and championship teams. It takes everybody being on the same page and being together, and that feeds down. If the younger guys see that the older guys are getting along on and off the field, it bleeds all the way down to your underclassmen. So very pleased with them so far this preseason, this summer, of how they've grown together and how they've stepped into some leadership roles. And some guys, everybody's personality is different.
Yes.
It's tough to push people into the fire to lead, and there's different types. Some of them are vocal leaders, and some of them are the ones that are picking up the trash after practice this morning. So, and some of them are just the ones that play hard. So there's a multitude of ways to lead, and that's what we've been trying to hammer down to those guys, and hopefully they can keep maturing and keep growing as the season goes.
The Christian Bells, the Christian Smiths, the Christian Gregories, the Trey Townsends, the Caden Williams. These are the guys, and I can go down this list of seniors. Thomas Wells at center, which is, hey, we've got a returning center, a returning quarterback, which is great for the coaching staff. Ben Williams, Isaac Green, Bryant Arnold. We got all kinds of seniors that are coming back to be a leader on this team, and we're really going to depend upon them to set the tone, aren't we?
Yeah, when you have a center, a quarterback, and a running back, we're able to do a lot more things offensively already than we had in last year because the center is the one that controls the whole offensive line. He makes a call and tells all of them what to do. So we're good with that. And then, the quarterback and running back, the receivers kind of get told what to do every play based on the signal. And the quarterback, running back kind of have to figure stuff out a little bit. And having those guys back on offense, and like you said, Bell, again, he's a 3-year starter. So those two, Bell and Thomas Wells, are able to get that offensive line figured out and get everybody moving in the right direction. Like Coach Hall always says, it doesn't matter if they all 5 screw up. If they're doing the same thing, we can have a positive play. And where offensive line gets in trouble is where 4 of them are doing one thing and one's doing another. So communication is a big thing for them, and Thomas Wells has done a great job.
Yes, I was down watching Coach Hall at the beginning of the practice when they're going through their individual drills when you're in your separate groups, and the guys are working hard, and I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, man, I'm going to be sweating like they are here in a little bit on the tennis court. They're just working their hind ends off, and just the minute details, and Coach Hall really pays attention to those minute details. You've got to do this. This arm's got to be here. The feet have got to be here, and it all begins in the trenches on both sides.
There's
it's
no
the
doubt.
trenches, man.
There's no doubt, and that's the first thing you got to be able to win. Win the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball, and the offensive line specifically, they had a good film session this week, and it's a work in progress, obviously, but all 5 of them need to be playing together and playing hard, and hopefully they'll do that Friday.
And then you go out and you line up, and you play your game, and the other team starts doing different things on the snap of the ball, and you're thinking, oh my golly, and then now you got to think and you got to improvise.
That's right.
And hopefully with the senior leadership they can do that. I know you're busy, so I get the chance to get on Georgia High School Football Daily. The 5A preseason. Of course, we had Trey Townsend and Caden Williams made preseason All-State. Congratulations to them, and they'll tell you that they got a lot of support around them for them to get that accolade. But when we look at this preseason, they got us ranked number 4 preseason in 5A, and we have 4. And I've been waiting to get into this. Region 7, we have 4 teams in the top 10.
Yeah.
Cartersville's at 6, Cass is at 9, and Hiram's at 10. And Cass comes in with a 5-7 record from last year that didn't even make the playoffs, if I remember correctly.
Cass did. Hiram did not.
Hiram didn't. Cass did. Yeah, we got 4 in the top 10. This region is going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, it is. Normally across all classifications, there's 3 to 5 teams that truly can win it.
Yes.
And that's back in our AA days. You could look at the beginning of the year and in AAA when we were a little bit more familiar with those guys. You could look and pick out those 4 or 5 and kind of knew where you were with them. Moving up to 5A has been a little bit different because we don't know quite as much about the teams in the state. We feel like every year we're playing a brand new team we've never played before, so it's been a little bit different. And then beyond that, look at this year in this year's region, and there's several teams that can win the region. So every game is extremely important for us to use these first 5 games as a to get ready for the region, because our region is going to be such a hectic schedule. So hopefully we can figure out our identity and see what these first few games, just every team in the state is kind of feeling out, because you think you may be good at something, and you think something may be a strength, and then you get into the games, and people with other color jerseys have something to do with your strengths and weaknesses, and you have to adjust a little bit. So hopefully we can figure out these 5 games and have that break, like you said, which seems like a long time away, but have that break and reset and get ready for a brutal region schedule, because every week we're going to have to bring it. Every team is improved, and every team has a great coaching staff and great players that are coming back. So that's a long time from now, but it is something in the back of our mind that we know we're going to have to be ready every week.
Yeah, Dalton and Woodland didn't make the top 10, but Dalton's probably in the top 15 because they've got a bunch of kids back, and Woodland's always going to be an interesting challenge. Back in the days when you first came here in 2A and then 3A, there was usually, respectfully, a couple cupcakes on the schedule, and that you could. Well, I'm going to be able to have a running clock in maybe the second half, fourth quarter for sure, and I can give my kids a break. This year it promises to be a 4-quarter game.
Yeah, every game just about last year was a 4-quarter football game,
yes.
Which is it makes everybody better players and better coaches. It does do that. The negative part is every possession of every game could determine the outcome. Just looking at last year's games, and so you don't have that luxury of getting some other guys just kind of their feet wet into the year like you could if you had some easier games. So it's a fine line of building that depth early, but also you want to win the football games. So the kids that aren't quite ready, that's why practice is so important. Those kids that aren't quite ready have to give it their all in practice every day to get better. And if they're not doing that, they may not get those game reps because we might not can afford to roll some guys in that are close, and we know they'll be ready. Eventually, they're just not quite ready yet. So they're, like I said, they're exciting games. We're every team on that first 5 is going to be a fun, exciting game. But we still have to do what we can to develop a little depth so we can have them for the like I said, we want to play a 15-game season.
Because the second 5, before we ever get to the third 5, the second 5 games on this schedule is going to determine what we're going to do and how we're going to be able to play. How many games we're going to be able to play in that third 5. The Yellow Jackets, the fans are excited everywhere I go. People are just pumped. Several teachers saw me in the hallway here coming to meet with you, and they are just jacked. I think the whole school's ready to go and get this going, and I know the coaching staff is.
Yeah, we definitely are, and going there is a great environment. They've got a great student section that's right there to greet us.
Yes.
Greet us with some greet us with some, just to greet us. How about that? They're there to greet us when we're coming out of our side over there, but it just adds to it. Like you said, the last time we were there, it was a huge region game, huge one, and we were able to come out on top on that one. So we know what to expect with the environment and the players. So now it's just, we got one more day of practice to go up and sure some things up. It's always before the first game, you feel like you're 3 or 4 days behind of what you want to have. But we had a pretty good one this morning, and hopefully tomorrow we'll come and have a clean, sharp practice and get some stuff done, and then it'll be game time.
Get on the road and get to Blessed Trinity and take on the Titans. It's going to be a fun year, and everybody is so excited. The coaching staff, the players, the fans are excited for this season to kick off, and it's hard to believe that it's here. August 18th is around the corner, but we're jacked up and ready to go. I'm going to let you get back to your duties. I know you're busy. Folks, we appreciate you listening to In the Press Box, brought to you by Calhoun Touchdown Club. And Coach, good luck and good health to the Yellow Jackets.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. This has been In the Press Box with Coach Clay Stephenson.